Hello and welcome back to yet another Arsenal podcast. I am Mark and I'm here with Anfield 89 veteran Richard. How you doing, Rich?
I'm very good, very good. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Happy New Year to everyone. We've taken a bit of a break over the Christmas period, much like a European League. We went away for a couple of weeks, but the Premier League kept on rolling. The last time we spoke, we were actually talking about a disappointing defeat to Aston Villa, which sort of bookends our return nicely after a triumphant victory. An absolute slapping. May I say, a richly deserved and long overdue slapping as well.
Yeah.
Shame we couldn't get to 5 or 6 and we let one in at the end, but we'll get on to that. But it does sort of cap a little period where I think results have been good, but maybe performances or at least periods in games and the sort of collective PTSD we've had from other title races has set in, and maybe we haven't been as optimistic or as strong or whatever it is as we were prior to the sort of Chelsea game, I would say. And, you know, we'd beaten Tottenham, we'd beaten Bayern Munich, and then we went into a bit of a dip, a draw here, a defeat there, but
don't forget the official 1-1 loss to Chelsea, which I think...
Well, during the... I don't know if we spoke about this at the time, but I saw a Maresca press conference in which he referred to beating Arsenal, which I thought, that tells me everything I need to know about how they think they won. Psychologically, they think they won. Where, as I said at the time, that was literally their best chance to make up some ground on us when they were in the title race. God knows where they are now. They've
used it as a great platform. Move on from there. I believe. I mean, I had a straight after the game last night. Currently, we are on the same games, and they are 15 points behind us.
15 points. Suck on that raw. Let's not talk about them anymore until we come round to play them again. But after the Aston Villa game, we had an away game at Club Brugge in the Champions League. Bit of a makeshift team, but that was a comfortable win, wasn't it? Some good cameos. And the reason I think that's relevant is that those cameos don't seem to have translated into more minutes for certain players. I'm thinking particularly about Noni Madueke and also especially of this little group, Christian Nørgaard. Because they both played. Nørgaard was centre-half, did pretty well. Madueke scored 2 goals. I mean, but it doesn't seem to have translated into Premier League minutes necessarily, does it?
I think since Nørgaard, I think, is now closer to the circle of trust. He came on last night, and I think he needed that opportunity. Arteta needs to see you when it's live, when the bullets are flying. And I think he's had a cameo in midfield and a very, very. It was Club Brugge, not the strongest opponents, but when you haven't had many minutes at a new club and you're asked to play a position that's not your bread and butter, I think it was a good indicator of what he can do. And I think Arteta, especially coming on last night, I think he's closer to that circle of trust. But yeah, Madueke's one that I thought would have had more minutes, especially taking some time off Saka. Another one is Eze. Since he's not error where he didn't track back and gave away the goal, he seems to have slightly become persona non grata for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, he does punish players, it would seem, in terms of minutes when they don't do something. He took him off straight away, and he hasn't really featured since. Not including. Did he play against Palace? I can't remember. I don't think he did.
He played on the left, did he? I can't remember. It's such a long time ago.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Yeah, he did play. He did play on the left.
It wasn't an inspiring performance, but
no, it wasn't amazing necessarily. But I'm sure. Well, this is the thing. I was going to say. I'm sure that he will have his time in the sun again.
Definitely.
But no, it's not definitely, because there are some people like once you're out, you are out. Now that is quite a call from. I'm sure he must play. There's no way Odegaard's going to be able to play every minute between now and the end of the season, particularly as we've got a double header against Chelsea again. And see if they can beat us 1-1 again. But home and away, it's one of those things where you want to be at the later stages of all competitions, but when you get there, some of them feel like a bit of a pain in the arse. The League Cup's one of them. So yeah, he will get minutes, but it's always been my main concern about Arteta, who I mostly love. The only thing I don't love is the way that he does not use his squad in the way that I would like him to. So that brings us on to the Wolves game, which a glorious victory again. Did it feel like that?
That was a strange one. It was a strange
one.
My overall feeling up until the second half last night was from everything from, say, Wolves, Everton, Palace and Brighton, I just had this feeling of, and what I was seeing, I was like, we're last season's Arsenal again. The slow patterns were back. The horseshoe was back. We were right side dominant, and I was like, we've got to learn the lessons, lads. It didn't work then, it won't work now. And effectively, barring Zubimendi and a couple of rotational players due to injury, it was the same team. I'm like, we can't do the same team with the same players, and it just wasn't a good feeling. We opportunity, we've had a number of goal scoring opportunities. I thought it was a phase, but teams go through these periods where we weren't scoring goals, but we were creating opportunities, and it's always been a worry with the collective there. There isn't that killer in there, and it just gave me a feeling. Oh God, we're back to where we were a year ago, and it wasn't good. It just gave me a feeling of dread, like one slip up. There's only so many games you can rely on own goals before you don't get that own goal, or the corner that's gone in off someone before you've got City already breathing down your necks. And it was just, I've seen this movie before feeling.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate that. However, if you look at the data, I know not everyone loves it. XG, but I do think it is indicative. They were creating chances, they were missing them. I think it was something like out of 9 expected goals, non-penalties, we had scored 1. And the thing about those things is that can't last forever. So and we were creating chances and stopping chances at the same rate, more or less, than we had at the beginning of the season when we were absolutely flying. And it's just, sometimes it goes like that. Yeah. The thing that was concerning me, and it concerned me at Wolves and Brighton particularly, and in the first half last night, there are occasions where we just cannot get hold of the ball. And it was like in the 5 or 10 minutes before Wolves' equaliser, it was a good 20 minutes where Brighton got the goal back, and then it's like a anxiety dream where you just can't clear the ball, we can't get hold of it, it keeps coming back. And we had to rely on a brilliant save from Raya. Nothing wrong with that. That's why you have a good goalkeeper. But without that intervention, I think we're looking at the end of a very, very different week. But I'd like to go back to the Wolves not the equaliser, the winner, which I thought Jesus had scored, but as you rightly point out, was an own
Came
goal.
Off the defender, didn't it? Came off the defender's head/shoulder.
Well, he was the one who put his finger up Jesus' arse about 2 years ago. So, a bit of karmic retribution for what was essentially a sexual assault that went uncommented on. Anyway,
it didn't go uncommented on. The pundits had a nice little chuckle about it. It's only Arsenal. You can finger another adult male in front of the world's TV cameras, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, there were 1 or 2 witnesses to that. Nothing happened. So I'm glad it was him who it cannoned off if it wasn't to be Jesus. But what I've really liked was the reaction of the fans, the club, the players. Because I've thought back to another game that we won in dramatic fashion that we shouldn't have been in that position, which was Bournemouth a couple of years ago when Reece Nelson, it's probably one of my favourite sort of non-trophy winning moments. But I think the reaction to both of those shows how far we've come as a club in this under Arteta, which is that was utter hysteria when we scored against Bournemouth, running around, the noise that came out of me.
The bench cleared.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. And of course we can celebrate the goal in the moment, but there was a definite change in the mentality between those 2 victories. Reports are to believe Declan Rice went off in the change rooms about standards, and he was right to do so. So, yeah, good that you won, but let's not forget we've done it in a way not ideal, and let's not forget that we cannot carry on like that. Yeah. And I think that might be more of the mark of champions, where you pull something out of the fire, but then you all look at each other and say, right, let's not do that again. Yeah. And then they went away to Everton, and penalty 1-0 for some errant finishing, some saves and some clearances of the line. That should have been a 4-0, I think.
And it's not an easy place to go. Their new stadium, I believe that was their first defeat at home this season. Yeah. So it's not an easy place
Newcastle
to go.
beat them.
Oh, Newcastle, sorry.
Beat them.
Great penalty. Well. Great penalty for a man under fire.
Yeah, so Gyökeres we should talk about him, because post that Burnley first half where it looked like it had clicked and then he got injured, since he's come back it looks like it hasn't clicked. And there is a combination of the style of play, the lack of what appears to be his teammates on the same wavelength, and just general standards of him. It's not looking great, is it?
No, I mean, there was a moment, and as I say, this podcast has turned me into a bit of a geek. And my note is, what the hell are you looking at, Gyökeres? Because there was a moment during the game where Saka attacked down the right-hand side and put a ball across, and Gyökeres was just on the 6-yard box, and it went across the box so it was on the left-hand side, and something was going on between, I'm not sure if it was Saka and a defender, but something was going on there. And Gyökeres is standing there staring at what's going on over there, when the ball could be played back across in a nanosecond from Trossard. And I'm like, you're a striker. Forget what's going on. Your instinct should be, there's the ball. You don't care if someone's got Saka in a headlock. Let the referee deal with that.
Yeah. And
that was quite really stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's not doing himself a lot of favours to win over his critics, is he?
No.
Like, it's not like he's doing things and you can see that it's just not coming off for him. There seems to be some real fundamental problems there. However, on the other hand, I'm gonna make a case for the defence in that when he's come off and Jesus has come on, looked like more of an all-round player. No, the game state is different, but we have started to be under pressure.
Do you think that's because Jesus starts in a deeper position where he doesn't pin them back so much? It's a difficult. Yeah. We haven't got a big enough sample size yet, but there is a trend, a small trend there.
It's also the game state as well. In a couple of these examples, we were winning, and you might think, right, we're going to control this, knock it about a little bit, and get us Jesus. But it has on both times. I'll say both times. It didn't really happen last night, but it has frequently coincided with the other mob having a lot of pressure and a lot of and real pressure as well. I don't mean that sort of fans are terrified, but really they're just knocking it about 50 yards from goal. Like you could Wolves, that equaliser did not come as a shock.
No, we our defence had regressed to inside our own box.
Yeah,
which, to be perfectly honest, with Big Gabby there, simply doesn't.
No, well, it could be a personnel issue. You're right. And the Brighton game, I watched in absolute abject terror. And I might have said to you, I said to my dad afterwards, I don't think I've got the stamina for another title race like this.
Yeah,
it is
you
so
did message me that.
I'm like, I was like, I need to go home and go to bed now. have a lie down. It's putting so much into it.
You see, the last few seasons, it's been when we're the plucky upstarts, when you're like, I'm just enjoying the ride. Now when the expectation's there and we as fans believe the squad is there, you forget. I remember, I thought back to it the other day, when it was us and Man U back in the 2000s, every game was exhausting as a fan, emotionally exhausting, because you couldn't and we're back there. And you realise, until you get that bit of daylight and you're in April, it's not fun.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, the Brighton game as well was more of the same, really, against a tricky... I know they're not having maybe their best season this year, Brighton, but most of these teams in the Premier League got some decent players. Minty, who I'd not really watched that much before, he was a constant threat.
I quite like him. I've always liked him. He's patchy, but he's a threat when he's in form.
Yeah, and he was in form, and especially in that last 20 minutes against us. And I like to point out that one of my bugbears from previous seasons reared its head in the Brighton game, which is the costly, it turned out not to be costly, but it was for my emotional health, costly Martinelli miss. And to be fair to him, he's actually played quite well, I thought, the last couple of weeks. Palace, he absolutely roasted that fullback. But beyond that, he was also putting in some really good deliveries, really dangerous. And he seems to have turned a bit of a corner, kept out of the side by someone who's playing better than him. So, you know...
That's what you want. Competition for places is what makes a title-winning side.
Yeah.
But I think the hallmark of this period of, okay, we've been winning games, is our pace of play. Like, when we start at a slow tempo, that's we let teams, we advance so slowly. There's 8 or 9 touches. You know, Saliba will bring it forwards, then he'll pass to, say, Nørgaard or Zubamendi, and they'll have 4 or 5 touches, and we'll gradually move forward. And our tempo seems, in my opinion, kills any attacking threat we have. For instance, when we get forward and we've got the bit between our teeth at high tempo, we're a dangerous side. But we seem to have had that extended period of letting teams shuffle back into position. You play the horseshoe of doom, and that was just what was concerning me. Where we've seen these faults before, but we're now good enough where every title winning side has a sticky patch, and hopefully that was ours.
Yeah, it does. Well, if it is, that would be amazing, because in that sticky patch, they've had probably one bad result, which is the defeat to Villa. You can't win. You can't go the old season unbeaten. Only one team in the history of modern day football has ever done that, which should demonstrate how difficult it is. Even the 100-pointers, you know, the Man City, Liverpool, 97, 98 point, whatever it was, seasons, they lose games. So you're just going to have to take that on the chin. It's just annoying it was against Villa.
Yeah. And the Invincible season, I think it was something like 10 or 11 one-goal wins. I think there was something like 9 2-1s. So we weren't blasting teams away.
No.
Winning a title was not easy.
It's not easy. It's certainly not easy on my emotional stability. That's for certain. And last night, I must say, first half, I thought we had not come out of it. The news ahead of the game was that Declan Rice had picked up an injury, something that I was actually worried about seeing him pop up at right back, despite his great performance, and he's just utterly majestic. Different position, different demands on the body. Mm-hmm. That's where injuries live. And
our right backs. Yeah, I mean, he covers a lot of ground, but it's very different to the amount of ground our right backs cover. They do get through a hell of...
But it's just like the different places on the pitch, the different way your body has to move as well. Is that, you know, I know there's a lot of overlap, but I'm just a little bit concerned. And the fact that he didn't play last night, I was really concerned about it. Because he obviously... I think they're very careful with players. They don't want to play them with injuries, but sometimes you just got to like grin and bear it. And you would have thought first v third, like absolutely no question, need to win this game from a psychological and just points perspective. It was a must. And first half, not happy.
No, not at all. And you could see Onana was really imposing himself in the centre, and I was sitting there going, I know someone that have dealt with that. Yeah. But the report, I mean, the social media reports were it was apparently something minor for Rice, but it was potentially one of those injuries where if he does play, you aggravate it and it becomes a bigger issue. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But yeah, we started at that slow tempo, letting Villa get back, get comfortable, no real penetration in that first half, and they were, as in the first game, breaking quickly. Balls over the top, people running on to, there was seemed to be a lot of space in our midfield. Yeah,
the thing that I was most concerned about was how easy straight balls down the middle were sorting us out. Watkins' bad finishing really let us out of jail there.
There was one he flashed across the front of the goal in the first half.
Yeah, I think the one where he basically muffed it to the near post. I think that was a really bad miss. And then we had the Saliba intervention, which I think was just I thought it was offside. B, we've got a great defender. He did some great defending, so I'm happy with that. The narrative around that is that if they'd have taken their chances in the first half, I don't buy this for a second. I want you to count, maybe even against Villa. How often have we been the better team in the first half, haven't taken our chances, and then paid for it afterwards? Loads.
Exactly.
And that's what happened to them last night. They had their little go. Maybe the intensity with which they played that first half is unsustainable. And the trade-off for that is, as we saw at the start of the second half, if you can't keep that up and the other team step it up, you can be bang in trouble. And that is what happened.
Yeah. You could markedly see our intensity was 2 or 3 levels higher in that second half.
Yeah.
And it really, really changed the game completely. Anana going off as well. Anana
went off. I know Marino kicked it. So Marino, let's talk about Marino for a moment. He could have got sent off.
He was a lucky boy. But there was a moment, I'm not sure which Villa player it was, did exactly the same thing earlier on in the game. I mean, that doesn't, because one player's done it and an Arsenal player does it, as we've seen in previous seasons, it doesn't make a difference to whether they get sent off or not. But
no, McGinn also did it later in the game. He did exactly the same foul, but that was brought back as well. So yeah,
I love watching John McGinn. I love watching. He makes me realise I could probably nick a game somewhere. His body shape is tremendous for a professional. It's a top level athlete.
Oh, I know. I'm sure his body fat is probably like 8% or something, but don't look at it.
I could see a little. Like I was when he was jogging towards camera. I love watching it. You can just see a little belly. I'm like, go on, John. Go on, son.
Hogmanay coming up as well. I bet he gets right involved in it.
God.
Who else was involved in the first game that makes me laugh? Emiliano Martinez. What is wrong with him?
He's not wide, right? He's not. It's basically shithouse first.
Yeah, yeah. And he come unstuck with that last night. Not for the first time against Arsenal as well.
But did you notice we changed our approach last night when he was mucking about with the ball in his box, ball at his feet, rolling it about. The first game, we would then create space by trying to pressure him, and he's good enough with the ball at his feet to play around that, and that was causing us problems. Last night, even in the first half when we weren't playing well, we didn't rise to the bait. We went, okay, you keep it on your feet, we'll keep our shape, and it didn't work. But the time wasting, they came to time waste. I think it was 28 minutes the ball was in play.
Yeah, 24 minutes of ball in play, 3 minutes added on.
8 minutes at the end of the game though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but he is that kind of. He was taking time over goal kicks, moving it. What I did, if we win the league, the ball boy behind the goal in the second half, they need to forge him a medal because he out shithoused Martinez. There was a moment where Martinez, all of a sudden, goal kicks are an urgent thing. He walked towards the ball boy. The ball boy had the ball in his hand and he dropped it. And then Martinez went to get another ball from one of the cones and he moved the cone right close to his goal. And when he took the goal, as he was taking the goal kick, the ball boy walked over and moved it back. I was like, "You, sir, are a legend." Loved it.
Yeah, give him a medal if we maybe he's got 3 runners-up ones and he don't want to.
Yeah, but no.
But you're right with his sodding about a lot of these players. There's a lot of cheat first players, shithouse first players, and he's probably one in the top table of that. If he just doesn't get involved in that, jumps, he could use his hands. Don't forget, right? He'll get that ball, but he's too busy. He can't help himself, can he? He is such a massive walloper. He just can't help himself getting involved. No,
even before the game, I mean, the perfect was. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen it. Before him stretching in the tunnel, doing his split stretches.
If you haven't seen it, describe what he's doing.
So the teams are coming out to warm up. As being as Mark put it, walloper, he is in our tunnel now. We don't have the canopy over; it's open where the supporters can clearly look down. He has stopped right in the slap bang in the centre of the tunnel and started doing his splits warm up to obviously goad the Arsenal fans. Cut to 2 hours later when he's walking down the same tunnel and the Arsenal fans are giving him the business. He's having to be pulled away by a member of Villa staff, and I'm like,
pulled away. There was quite an
hold me back.
Yeah, scrappy do. Let me at him. Style.
But I respect shithouses that will go, do you know what? Fair enough. But he's not one of those. He can give it, but cannot take it. And it's delicious.
I think he is not good against us. I think there's a lot of times when he allows that to get the better of him, which is not, as you say, like someone like Pepe or Sergio Ramos, happy to, real...
Yeah, this is me.
They don't let the other side of it I know Sergio Ramos and Pepe have been sent off loads, so maybe... But it doesn't appear to be the fact they don't wind themselves up during the winding up, whereas Martinez very obviously does, getting a right arseache.
There was a moment in the first half where we played a through ball over the top and Saka is running Martinez are potentially on collision course. And I played it out in my head because I saw the height of the ball and I went, Martinez is going to go down holding his hands or face here. Saka turned his back to the whole thing as he knew he wasn't going to get there. And he goes down holding his face and he wasn't even close to it. And you're like, I get it, you're trying to kill time, but you are just an absolute bell.
Long may it continue, because I think there's a real weak spot when we play Villa, which is Martinez's unresolved Arsenal trauma. What are you worried about as well? If, like, he's had a great career since he got sold.
He's won the World Cup.
No, but he seems to be really upset that we sold. We had two goalkeepers. We probably sold the better one, but the other one didn't have an offer. We needed them.
Yeah. And even for our first goal, where the legend that is Big Gabby, he reintroduced himself going, I'm back, lads. Don't worry. We're back on track. He would have had a better chance of dealing with that situation if he wouldn't have had two hands of the back of Gabby's shirt, trying to shithouse when the ball's coming over, shoved him, and then you're not in position.
No,
he was out of position, off balance. The ball's rolled down Gabby's body, off his leg, shin, whatever it came off. And when you're back of it, you would never see Raya do that because Raya would be set to deal with the issue. He doesn't care who's standing in front.
No, very, very true as well. And then that kind of, it opened the floodgates, didn't it? Because
it changed the whole dynamic.
The intensity of the press seemed to go up. The success of it, they were playing with fire, I think, Villa, the way they were feeding it to Lindelof right on the byline, and then that sort of little pattern that they...
Yeah.
I think they got out a couple of times in the first half, but obviously Arteta put a rocket up them at half-time, and they came out with much more intensity. And I feel like those 3 goals sort of came from that. I mean, I know one of them didn't, but the Zubimendi goal, I think, encapsulated the return to form of Marc and Anfield.
Yes.
Now, you said something to me a little while ago, was basically how long it takes to recover from what NFL players call the higher ankle sprain, which is what I think he had on international duty.
It's a bad injury.
And how long is it normally in that? I know it's a different sport, different demands, but
it can be anywhere between 10 weeks and 6 months, depending on the severity of the ankle sprain. That's how bad they can.
Yeah, and I saw a glimpse of it during the Everton game. Now, you've been critical of him, of dropping too deep to pick the ball up, and I can see why. But against Everton, you can see why he started to do it, which was basically he was beating player. There was one time he got the ball off the back four, beat a player, drove into space, fed Saka, cut back, and it was one of those that didn't quite work out. And I think last night it was his second half. It was him back to his very best because he worked. Definitely. He always works hard, right? You could never ask him or never accuse him of shirking any responsibility with or without the ball. He always wants it. But last night was absolutely fantastic, encapsulated by and I've spoken about this before. A lot of people are critical of him holding the ball too long. But I think part of that is he's looking for the pass, not a pass that can just go through, the pass where that guy is out of position. Yeah. Our run has made the most out of it. And that's what Zubimendi's goal was last night, because he did hold on to it, what you might think a bit longer. You know, you could see the move unfolding, and a different player may have played it too early. Yeah. But
Us being Morton sitting there going, now.
Created.
Yeah. But what was very interesting was, and it was really pleasing to see, Saka didn't have a good night, which is rare for him. He's human. That's what happens. They put a defensive midfielder at left back. I think they were worried about his threat. But Nørgaard went, right, okay, and we became left side dominant, which was really nice to see. There have been periods, and I don't get me wrong, I've been down on Nørgaard, not because I don't like him, because I know how good he is. And where, no matter what the situation, when you're just forcing it down the right, and teams are setting up for that before the game, you are wasting a great opportunity when Trossard is having the season of his life. And last night we went, right, okay, not a problem, and became left side dominant. And Nørgaard, what I loved, he's in the middle of the pitch and he was going both ways, and it's fantastic to see.
Well, let's talk about Trossard then, because He is joint top scorer. You know, he's joint top goal scorer with.
Oh.
No, well, I think that's number 2. But
Big gap. Oh, Jokeris. Oh, okay. Yeah. What's it?
They got 7 each in all competitions.
Okay. Oh, all comps. Okay.
Yeah. But he is having a great season. I think this is an underrated element of a title-winning season, which is one of your sort of, not your superstars, but one of your squad players or somebody has a much better season than you thought they were going to. And going back to 98, you might even say Ray Parlour fulfilled that brief where, you know, good, decent player, but Wenger transformed him into such a dynamic right midfielder. And that was a component of that title win. And, you know, you can look at other examples, maybe Gilberto Silva coming in just being an absolute rock. And this year, it looks like Trossard has gone up a few levels. Strength, finishing, output. I think he's been really good.
And the thing was, there was rumours, you know, we were supposed to be looking at left wingers over the summer. There was Rodrigo bandied about, and all the so-called ITKs were saying, well, someone's going to have to go before someone comes in, which is understandable with the size of the squad. And to be perfectly honest, the consensus of people I spoke to was like, well, let's get rid of Trossard because Martinelli's the younger player. And I'm sure it raised a few eyebrows when they obviously didn't extend his contract but gave him a pay rise. And the club know what they're doing, which is great to see.
Yeah. It is. He has responded to it, and it was that is a very Trossard-y goal. I think that's that opportunistic strike from the edge of the box. I think if he did have a signature move, that would definitely be it. And yeah, brilliant. 3-0 up. I did allow myself to relax a little bit, but little did I know there was more joy to come. I think there was a moment though, I can't remember whether it was at 2-0 or 3-0. We had a great move. We came steaming forward. It ended up on the left. Hincapié had made an 80-yard run, running onto it, and he just collapsed. What happened to him?
I think he either slipped on the turf or trod on the ball. I don't know. That was just inside the box. And I said last night, I love Hincapié. I just think he's not. There's no polish with him.
No, he's not a polished player.
I really like him. I want him to do well, but the lift don't go all the way to the top with that kid. Makes me. Did you see the moment? And it made me laugh my head off. Big Gabby's on the floor, just when he's about to go off, and, you know, he was done. And Hincapié walks over and treads on his hand. I was like, I'm sure if you gave him a colouring book on an away trip, you wouldn't hear from him for hours. I love that kid. I've got a lot of time for him.
Well, that's why all these players have got hand wrappings and wrist bandages because Hincapié's going around stepping.
He's walking around. He's probably got rugby studs in as well, knowing him. But yeah, it did make me chuckle. But no, I really like him.
It seemed to affect him for a little bit after. I don't know whether he was just knackered or what, but he didn't seem to be able to recover from that. I mean, I know it was a long run late in the game, but he got the ball again and he was like, don't pass it to me, I'm shattered.
Yeah, he was just laying it off. There was no marauding runs at that point. But it was lovely to see Gabby back. I mean, you can really see that partnership, what you miss when either of them aren't there.
We spoke about Marino, and he's tad fortunate to start a pitch, and obviously they took him off. So I think it was good that Nørgaard did actually get a little bit of trust.
Definitely.
And hopefully this is... Look, he's not the most spectacular player, but I would think that when the game is slightly going away from you, or, you know, you maybe 1 or 2-0 up, you bring him on, he's going to be solid. He's going to win.
He controls games. He can control games and he can win balls back. And that's what you need in those situations.
I mean, he's not a mug, is he? He's been playing in the Premier League forever. Premier League captain, international footballer. Use him more often. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I want him to start up front in the Champions League final or anything, but he should be used more. Although, to be fair, Arteta, whether this is true or not, does say he understands his role in the squad and he performs it, which, I don't know, let's take that at face value, that he knew he wouldn't get loads of minutes. And I think he has also said that he felt a little bit behind the pace or a little bit below the level required in training. And so maybe there's an element of that. It's taken him a little while to get up to speed. And I think we're also a little bit impatient about signings, about they've got to produce immediately.
That's modern football. Modern football. Do you remember Robert Perez's first season? He looked like a competition winner.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember because he was replacing Overmars and he thought, oh, Pires has chosen us over Real Madrid. Brilliant. And I remember him playing for Marseille in Europe against an English club. Might have been Newcastle. He looked really good. And then he came and he just like a little bit powder puff. It's almost hard to remember. Like, I know we all remember the folklore that it took Pires a little while, but it's actually hard to remember how terrible he was because of how
my dad said he wouldn't make it. My dad said this. My dad uttered the words because you know how calm he is, and there's no hyperbole from that man. I remember sitting at I think it was the Blackburn game. Oh, no, it might be, but I can't remember quite. I don't think actually. And his words to me were, "He will never make it in the Premier League."
Yeah, it does take a lot. It does take a long while to adapt really to the intensity of it, and it is intense, but it's also tactical now as well. It's got a combination of all the major leagues. Like it's always had that blood and guts, but now it's got like the technical ability that you might expect from Spanish football, the tactical nuances from Italian, shithousing from
South America. But going back, I mean, obviously you said it's a squad game now. What's interesting is obviously there's been talk about Ranieri being on the bench and not getting minutes, but last night he wasn't even in the squad. And also we've got Havertz coming back.
Yeah.
And also we've got, who else is injured at the moment? We've got a couple of Rice coming back. Wasn't in the squad last night. That takes up another two of those bench places.
Yeah. No, that is right. And I think this is a hoary old cliche, but you forget Ranieri is only 18.
18. He's 18 years old.
Same with Miles Lewis Skelly as well, whose minutes haven't been exactly what he might have expected after last year's breakthrough. Again, very young player. Yeah. And if you look at the way they treated Saliba, they signed him when he was 18. He wasn't even in the building for 3 years. Now look at him. So let's not rush everything or be in such a hurry to write players off. And I'm going to include Gyökeres in that category as well, because he's been playing in Portugal for a while. Takes a bit of time to adapt. Maybe it will take him a season or two. And if you look at the way I know City's slightly different in the way they warehouse players, but there is a reason for that. It's because it's a complicated tactical setup and it takes you time to adjust to the league and the demands of the manager as well. The fact that Ruben Amorim was his manager for a long time might give you some indication of the period of adaptation that he's got.
Well, I mean, speaking of adaptation, if you look at on social media, Benjamin Sesko, let me put this in terms that people will understand it, shit the place out last night. He was supposed to have been absolutely... He's a young kid. He's going to have to learn the league. When you watch it, I admit it, I was Team Sesko because he was the younger option. And I'm watching my deep dive scouting ability was about 3 or 4 YouTube videos of him rifling him in from 35 yards. But this is the toughest league in the world, and no one is going to give you an inch. They don't care if you're 20 years old. They've got their own careers to worry about. The opposition don't care about you. You've got to, it's sink or swim for every single player in this league.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a player who is swimming to the extent you're not even really talking about how he has slotted in straight away is Zubimendi. And he was instrumental in the 4th goal as well. The way he won that on his own. I think the way he plays the number 6 role to the way Declan Rice developed as a number 6 under Southgate and Moyes, my views on those two, shows the gulf still, I think, in English football thinking. Who plays in your number 6 position? It's basically an extra defender. The Spanish and Italians don't think like that. They had Pirlo in that position, Rodri as well. He's a great player. It's really where everything starts. And Jorginho was a similar player as well. Really liked him. And you don't necessarily have to be the greatest athlete in the world, but you do need to be able to read the game way ahead of time. And Zubimendi, he's just a pure footballer. He hasn't got a Premier League footballer's haircut, which I think...
No, that's his only black mark against him. I think the reason we don't hear so much about Zubimendi is because he's been excellent since the first game. Every game has been a 7 out of 10 or more. So it's like Saka. I feel bad for Saka because player of the season, he really wins it. Because it's just Saka, that's what he does. And Zubimendi has come in and done the same thing. He's like, he's going to have a great game. When he does have a great game, everyone's like, well, that's Zubimendi, that's what he does. And he's been here half a season. It's unbelievable.
Well, he won the ball on the left-hand side, mopped up, and even that was clever. the way that he did it. He didn't fly into a challenge Caicedo style, who's now banned from the Man City game because he goes around booting people. He sort of just waited at like a millisecond to be able to let the ball, and then he was away. Then he had the presence of mind to understand that Trossard's faster than him, gave it to him, and then it ended up at Jesus. Now, Jesus has a lot of critics about his finishing ability, but he's a great footballer. There is no doubt about that. And I think he showed it with his goal last night. One touch and then bent it in the corner. And if we could get 4 months like the 4 months he had when he first joined for the rest of the season, we'll be in a very good position.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for what he's been through, whether you like a football, have back-to-back major knee injuries, being away from the squad, how mentally tough you have to be to deal with that is phenomenal. And just to see him back on the pitch was a lovely sight. But now he's performing as well is just unbelievable. It's so lovely to see. And he's a lovely guy. You can see that
really
in his
interviews. Really pleased to see. He's obviously been doing a lot of praying recently. Unless that T-shirt was a self-reference.
It was the same font and everything. It was the exact.
I did see someone who photoshopped I belong to Ray Parlour.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which I'm but super pleased for him. You know, as you say, at a human level, how these guys are professionals. They want to achieve things in your career. Not be able to do that for 2 years must be very, very difficult. And I know you can say about the money and all that, but that's the benefit of being a professional footballer. What they actually want to do is go and prove how good they are. And I thought that was a great game and a great cameo for him. 4-0. And until the 92nd minute, I don't think they'd had a shot on target, Aston Villa. I know they should have had a shot on target, but
their XG up until that point was 0.0.
92nd minute. And then, so we let in another goal post 92 minutes.
Yeah. I'm not too worried about that in that game state. I'm not worried about it.
No, it was obvious that, the game had been won. The intensity had dropped a little bit. We had a couple of Ole moves.
Yeah. Lovely.
8 minutes of injury time. Come on, ref.
or the very enjoyable you're just a shit David Raya. The Martinez getting dug out was
there was plenty of time for that. But then there was still time for John McGinn's fat ass to miss. Someone said it was miss of the season and save of the season. I don't think it was save of the season. I mean, he did well. He dived, he hit the post, he got up, but he nerdled it straight back to him, didn't he? Really, it was just. Yeah. And then we did. Ollie Watkins got his customary goal, but again, I think that was just a bit of pride coming through from Aston Villa.
Yeah, our levels had dropped. We knew the game was won, quite rightly. When you've got so many other games coming up, that you save yourself a little bit, whether it's on purpose or subconsciously. When you're 4 up in a minute,
I'll take that all day long. Those little, fuck the clean sheet or record. I know the back four really prize it, and they'll probably be a little bit pissed off about it. But what would you rather? Another injury from flying about in the 24th minute, or just trying to manage the game and one of them sneaks through? And again, I don't put that in the same bucket as some of those other late goals that we've conceded. It's a completely different state. So that brings us up to date with 5 points clear. Man City have got, Sunderland and Chelsea next? And we've got Bournemouth away. Bournemouth not having a great time of it. And then Liverpool at home. Liverpool 4th after basically not winning a game for 2 months.
It's still not looking convincing to me. They're still not. They're winning games, but I'm more confident than I was when we hadn't had a big demographic of how they were playing when we played them early in the season. I think I don't fear them as I did.
No. And then when I'm looking at the fixtures as well, the league intensity eases up a little bit because we've got the away in the cup at Portsmouth, pretty decent draw there, off heavy rotation for that. Chelsea in the League Cup semi-final, 14th of January. I think we're going to go strong for that. I think he'll, and people do their pieces when someone gets injured, but that is
3 days later. We got Forest.
Forest. Inter would like hopefully. What day is that? That's a shame. I was hoping it would be on the Wednesday, but we're guaranteed top 2, aren't we?
Yeah, we don't need to go and kill ourselves in that.
That said, that's not the Arteta way. He doesn't pick and choose the games that they play. So I think he'll go strong for that as well. But there are opportunities to rest and rotate. So even though the concentration of games there's no let up there are lots of opportunities to share the minutes about. And as you say, we've got a squad coming back now. Ben White came on last night, last few minutes as well after being injured. So he's obviously nice and fit. Again, necessary. I know Timber's been playing, but I actually quite like it when you've got your two fullbacks on the bench. Because I think when Tomiyasu and White were the two for about 8 minutes, they used to almost job share that if one got a booking and you couldn't afford another one, you could just switch one out for the other for absolutely no change in ability. And I think that's what we're going to have here. So I am quietly confident that we've turned a bit of a corner. That corner wasn't that damaging anyway, just a draw and a defeat in that run of like 6 games. So feeling pretty good about life again, and hopefully someone like Sunderland or Chelsea can do us a bit of a favour and help us maintain what is currently a 5-point gap.
Exactly. Yep. I feel exactly the same. We had a little rough period. We navigated it to the best of our abilities. We came through it with minimal damage, and last night, fingers crossed, we'll give them feeling full. We march on.
What about the handshake gate? Is it going to run and run?
He was cold, apparently. He was cold. He didn't even stand. I mean, the whistle went and he turned down the tunnel. But you know my favourite.
I know a lot of people like Emery. I don't like Emery. I've never liked him. I think he's a passive-aggressive little weasel. And last night, a little... Well, this is an audio...
drives me. The little mouth, constant rubbing the side of his mouth, drives me nuts.
The reason... I tell you, maybe this is completely unreasonable, but I'm a football fan. Being reasonable is not my responsibility. When we hired him, there was a story about him at Valencia where he had these thumb drives that he used to send players home with, and he suspected that one of the players was not watching them, so gave him a blank one, and then said, "How was it?" Pass it. Could you imagine Arteta doing that? It'd be straight, and that is why that possibly apocryphal story is what I base my entire belief of what he's like as a man.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good to see, there were many demons slayed last night because they've been a bit of a thorn in our side over the past couple of seasons.
They've been a bit thorny, but we don't have to think about them again for ages now.
Yeah.
Unless we get them in a fucking cup or something. Anyway, that brings us right up to date. Thanks to everyone for listening and the comments and the messages that we're getting. Email us on yap49@gmail.com with any questions, thoughts or observations. But I guess we will be back to our sort of game-by-game schedule. Next one is, so that'll be the 4th of January after we play Bournemouth on Saturday the 3rd at 5:30. And before we host Liverpool. So until then, thank you very much for listening. Goodbye from me and...
See you later.
See you later. Bye.